I was just pulling weeds. Then I found my grandmother's secret, shocked that my grandmother was married to a Nazi. At first, it just looked like dirt. She was kneeling in the garden behind her rental, the same one her grandparents had lived in for 50 years. Gloves on, coffee cooling on the step behind her, trying to wrestle a root out from under an old stone marker near the hydrangeas. Then, her hand caught something solid. She thought it was just a rock, but it had edges, a shape. She pulled gently, brushed it off. A ring, not flashy, old, faded gold with an ornate setting, like something from a 1930s film. There was still soil in the filigree. Her heart started to race. She slipped off her glove, held it up, and then she saw the engraving inside the band. FG plus LH, 1941. Her fingers went still. LH was her grandmother, Lily Hart. She'd seen her handwriting. She recognized the curl in the L. That wasn't a factory stamp. It was personal, handmade. But her grandmother was never married. That's what the family always said. That's what Lily always said. Not during the war, not after. She checked again. FG LH, 1941. That's when she felt something shift in her chest, because her grandmother had a German accent, one she rarely spoke of. And her grandfather, the one she grew up thinking was her grandfather, didn't meet Lily until 1950. She didn't say anything at first, just rinsed the ring under the kitchen tap and left it on a paper towel by the sink. She told herself she'd look into it later. But later didn't last long. By evening, she'd already called her mother. Did Grandma ever, I don't know, have a fiancé during the war? There was a pause on the other end. No, her mother said. At least not that I know of. Why? She almost said it. Almost described the ring, the engraving, the initials. But she didn't. Just curious, she mumbled. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept replaying stories in her head. Half memories. Things Lily used to say. Always vague, always wrapped in nostalgia. It was a different time. People disappeared. Some things are better forgotten. At 2:11 a.m., she opened her laptop, searched FG plus LH, 1941, Germany. Nothing. Then she searched German-American marriages during World War II. Then, secret Nazi marriages in the US. By 3 a.m., she was deep into archive forums, articles about Operation Paperclip, whispers about immigration cover-ups, obscure genealogy posts with black and white wedding photos and names she didn't recognize. And then, somehow, she landed on a scanned yearbook page from a private German-American school in New York, dated 1940. Her grandmother's face was there, younger, smiling, labeled Lily Hart, Language and Composition. Next to her, a man, tall, dark-suited, narrow eyes, handwritten under his name, Herr Friedrich G., History Department. Her stomach dropped. She zoomed in. The handwriting on the photo caption matched the engraving on the ring. Same slope, same flick at the top of the F. She stared at it for a long time, then whispered out loud, "What the hell, Grandma?" She didn't tell anyone about the photo. She saved it, printed it, slipped it under the ring on her nightstand, like keeping them together might conjure something more. But questions piled up fast. What happened to Friedrich G? Was he really a Nazi? Did her grandmother know? Did she help him? She didn't want to ask her mother. Not yet. Instead, she drove to the house where Lily had lived her last 30 years. It was empty now. Her uncle owned it, technically, but no one had touched it since Lily's funeral. The utilities were off. The mail was frozen, but the key still worked. She stepped inside like it might bite her. The house smelled like dust and mothballs. The sun came in low and yellow through lace curtains. Everything was still where it had been. The sewing machine, the brittle china. A photo of her and her brother in the hallway. Kids in Halloween costumes, grinning under a crooked frame. She went straight to the bedroom. Top drawer, then the bottom, then the clo. Nothing. But when she opened the cedar chest at the foot of the bed, she stopped breathing. Letters, hundreds of them, some tied with ribbon, some still sealed, some in German. She pulled out the first stack. The ink had faded, but the return address read, Friedrich G., Staten Island, New York. Date 1942. She sat on the floor and read for hours. Some were mundane. Weather, teaching schedules, train delays. But some were different. One, dated December 1944, ended like this. I won't tell them what you did. I gave my word. But I don't know how much longer I can stay. I feel them watching, even from here. Another from 1946, I still wear the band, even if you stopped. I never blamed you. We were young. But I remember Berlin. I remember the orchard. I remember what you said after the second train. Her chest tightened. She reread that line 10 times. After the second train. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew what it sounded like. She took photos of every letter, put them all back, locked the house. Then she went home, opened her laptop, and did something she hadn't dared before. She searched for Friedrich G. War records, Staten Island, 1940s. There wasn't much, but one result stood out. An old, scanned court file, digitized by a local university. Immigration Review Board versus Friedrich Gottwald, 1952. The summary was short, most of it blacked out. But one line at the end read, "Subject denies prior SS affiliation. No confirming documentation recovered. Testimony inconsistent. Recommended, watch list, close surveillance, non-deportation status under Operation Paperclip umbrella." She stared at the screen. Her ears rang. She read it again. SS affiliation, Operation Paperclip. Her grandmother didn't just marry a man who may have been a Nazi. She may have helped him disappear. The folder was thick. She'd printed everything. Letters, court files, screenshots, even the grainy yearbook page. It was all there, in a plastic binder she carried like a loaded weapon. And she wasn't done. The next day, she drove to a library across town, the kind with real archives, not just Wi-Fi and lattes. She requested microfilm from the 1940s, immigration cases, war records. She sat for hours in the back corner, scrolling, skimming, squinting. That's when she saw the name again. Gottwald Friedrich. Application for naturalization denied. Security review pending. Another record, 2 years later. Same name, new alias, Frederick Gates. Same birth date, same signature. The alias had been approved. She leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes. Her grandmother hadn't just married him. She'd helped him stay. Understandable. She didn't know what she was hoping for when she called her uncle. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said, "I need to ask you something about Grandma." There was a pause. Then, "You found the ring." She froze. He sighed. "Yeah, I figured. Your mom called me after you asked about the fiancé." She knew? No, but she remembered something. Said Lily had a box she always told us not to touch. I went looking for it once when I was a kid. Found a photo of a man. German-looking, mustache, and a letter in a language I couldn't read. "Did you ask her?" He snorted. "Once." She got quiet. Said, "Some debts don't get paid in dollars. That's all." She closed her eyes. Do you remember his name? I don't think she ever said it. Just that he was the reason we never talked about the war. She couldn't let it go. That night, she took the ring out of the drawer again, turned it in her fingers, watched the way the morning light hit the stones. The engraving was almost worn smooth, but she could still feel it with her thumb. FG and LH. She flipped through the folder, looked at the photo of Friedrich in the school hallway. The way he stood, hands behind his back, almost military, almost smug. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. New York area code. She hesitated, answered. Is this Lily Hart's granddaughter? Her throat tightened. Who's calling? My name is Daniel. I'm the son of Friedrich Gottwald. She didn't speak. I think we might be related, he said. They met 2 days later, a coffee shop in Queens. She took the train. He brought the file. He looked nothing like the photo. Shorter, softer, nicer eyes. He handed her a manila envelope. I think you should see this. Inside were discharge papers, not military, civil. Friedrich had worked for a private shipping company under U.S. contract until 1971. No gaps, no relocations, no mention of anything before 1948. I only found out 6 months ago, Daniel said. I was going through his stuff. He left a will, but no assets. Just a note. Tell Lily's people the truth if they ever come looking. Lily's people? She repeated. He nodded. That's what it said. She looked down at the ring on her finger. I didn't know any of this, she whispered. He hesitated, then reached into his coat pocket, pulled out another ring, same shape, same setting, a little more tarnished. Her heart stopped. I found it in his things, he said. It had no engraving, but I think it was supposed to be hers. She looked at it, then at him, and that's when it hit her. There were 2 rings. What to say? She got home late, poured a glass of water, sat at the kitchen table, pulled out both rings and lined them up, side by side. The designs were identical, but one was worn down on the edges, smoothed by time. The other still had the sharp points in the filigree. She turned hers in the light again, felt the weight. Then she flipped open the folder, back to the last letter, the one dated 1946. I remember the orchard. I remember what you said after the second train. What second train? She searched everything she could. Refugee records, deportation lists, train routes in and out of Berlin in the summer of '45. Then she found something. A report, declassified, dated July 1945. It mentioned an incident, a mistaken transfer of civilians meant for displacement, rerouted onto a military transport headed toward the Soviet zone. A clerical misidentification. Dozens of names, few survivors. One name listed as rescued prior to boarding, Hart L. Another, Gottwald F., presumed aboard. Status, missing. But he didn't get on the train. And she didn't go alone. She closed the file, looked back at the tea. Then the knock came. Not loud, just deliberate. She opened the door. A man stood there, late 60s, gray suit, wire-framed glasses. Sorry to bother, he said. You don't know me, but I knew Lily, a long time ago. She hesitated. Who are you? He held up a photo. Young Lily, Friedrich, and one more man, the stranger. I think we need to talk, he said, and smiled softly. You found more than you think. You think the ring was the end? Oh no, it was the beginning. Hit subscribe. I'll show you what I found next. She let him in. The man moved slowly, with a slight limp. He smelled faintly of tobacco and library dust. His voice was calm, low, practiced. My name is Elias. He sat at her kitchen table like he'd been there before. I met your grandmother in the fall of 1945. She saved my life. She didn't speak, just listened. I was in Berlin. My father had already disappeared. My mother was sick. Lily found a way to get me out. It was through the Red Cross. But it wasn't legal. She bribed someone. I still don't know how. But I ended up on a truck, then a boat, then here. He looked at the ring in her hand. That one? He asked. She nodded. She wore it when she came to find me. They talked for 2 hours. He told her everything he knew. How Lily and Friedrich had met at the school in New York. How he was different from the others. Sharp, cold, obsessed with maps. He never talked about politics. Elias said, but you could feel it. After Pearl Harbor, Friedrich vanished from the school. So did Lily. No explanation. They reappeared 2 years later in Maryland. Different names, different papers. Whatever they did, Elias said, they did it together. She didn't sleep that night. She laid the 2 rings on the table. Next to them, a copy of the court file. The letter, the photo with the stranger. And then she did something she hadn't done in years. She called a historian. Apostrophe in University's Central Fall. A sunlit room filled with books and old maps. Jean didn't say much as she flipped through the documents. Just read, slowly, carefully. This, she said, pointing to the surveillance record, is real. I've seen others like it. The phrasing is exact. She traced her finger across the top of the page. But what's odd is how little there is. If he was high-ranking, there'd be more. If he was no one, there wouldn't be anything. What does that mean? Jean looked up. It means someone cleaned this up. Not perfectly, but enough. She leaned back. And that usually means he was valuable. Over the next few weeks, they pieced together what they could. Friedrich had come to the US in 1938, posed as a teacher, was nearly deported in 1942, stayed because of someone's intervention, maybe Lily's, maybe someone above her. He taught, then vanished, resurfaced in 1950 under a new name, took a shipping job, retired without ever owning a house or car, left no will except a note. It wasn't the profile of a criminal. It was the profile of someone hiding in plain sight. And Lily? She'd lived quietly, never remarried, never spoke about the war, but always kept a safety deposit box under her maiden name. Inside, only the ring and a short note, unsigned. Some people get monuments, some get silence. I chose the second. If someone finds this, it means you needed to. That fall, she gave a talk at the library. Just a small one. Local history night. 10 people in folding chairs. She didn't tell them everything, but she told them the truth. That her grandmother was not just a teacher. That her family had more shadows than stories. That not every heirloom is decorative. Some are warnings. Afterward, an old woman came up and took her hand. My mother hid people, she said softly. But she never told me who. They stood there like that for a long time, just holding hands. She never sold the ring. She had both cleaned, placed in a custom shadow box, lined with linen, side by side under glass. At the top, a small brass plate. FG plus LH, 1941. Below, a second line, carved by hand. She went back for him. He stayed hidden for her.